Welcome back. It's Bob versus Willie here again. He's Bob Gersten. I'm Willie Witten. We're going to run through one of our top 10 song lists. And today, that person, Bob, is
Neil Young.
One of my favorites. Bob, I'm going to let you lead this one off, if that's okay.
Okay. Well, for number 10, I have Southern Man, which is on his third album after the Gold Rush. Mm-hmm. And it was a pretty controversial song because of the fact that he's singing about slavery in the South and being pretty hard on the people there. And Leonard Skinner had their comeback song, Sweet Home Alabama, and telling Neil Young that they didn't need him anymore. But they did make up. And it's like Ronnie Van Zant used to wear a Neil Young t-shirt sometimes when he played. And Neil Young also did their song too.
Yeah, it was amicable from what I've heard. My number 10 is I've Been Waiting for You. It's off Neil Young's debut solo album. I like it. It has one of my favorite sort of fuzzed out solos of his of all time. And it really sort of, to me, gave an indication of what his solo career was going to be like. For number 9, it's in the same vein, but later on, I have Words. And that is in the final trio of songs off his, I believe it's his Harvest album. And it's just wonderful. It's Neil Young, noise guitar at his best.
Well, my number 9 is Mr. Soul. And Mr. Soul was from Buffalo Springfield, which was the group that Neil Young actually kind of catapulted to fame with. And the thing is, when he wrote Mr. Soul, it was after he had his first epileptic episode while he was performing. And that's what the song is about. And he wrote it on an old newspaper, which was one of the things that he did a lot of times. And it became the B-side of Bluebird. Number 8 is with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and it was Ohio. And that was recorded in May of 1970, and it was a reaction to the Kent State Massacre after Neil Young read about it in Life magazine, where, National Guard troops came down to guard during a protest in which martial law was declared and nobody was supposed to be protesting, and they ended up shooting for college students and killed them.
Yeah, so mine is also for number 8. It's a more serious song talking about problems, different type of problems. And 8 for me is The Needle and the Damage Done. The opening picked acoustic line, I think, is tremendous. It's iconic. And his singing is classic Neil Young. And then also the lyrics have a lot of meaning to as well. My number 7 is a Buffalo Springfield number, Expecting to Fly. I don't know if the strings were necessarily his idea, but the song is his. And I find it to be probably Buffalo Springfield's best song, in my opinion, and one of Neil's best examples of his ability to write them up. Bob, what do you got?
For number 7, I have Cinnamon Girl. Okay. Now, he wrote Cinnamon Girl along with Cowgirl in the Sand and Down by the River during a period where he had 103 degree temperature. And during that time, he got inspiration, probably because of hallucinations or dreams, because I've had dreams when I've been really sick that were pretty weird. Now, the thing is, he never mentioned who the girl was, but the thing is, there's a hint, because in his Decade album, this album, he writes in the liner notes that he wrote it related to Phil Oakes. Now, Phil Oakes was a friend of Jean Ray, who was a 60s folk singer who used finger cymbals. And so it's believed that it was about her. For number 6, I have Cowgirl in the Sand, which I already said, he wrote 3 of those songs all at one time. And the album that it was on was Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, which was his second album, and his first album with Crazy Horse.
All right. So my number 6 is Journey Through the Past. When I think of that song, I think of the version off the live at Massey Hall. It's a very touching song, I think. Piano based. 5, I have Hey Hey My Into the Black. So not Into the Blue, the one that leads off Rust Never Sleeps, the live album, but the one that closes it. That guitar sound he has at the beginning is so swampy. I don't think that there were a lot of people using that type of sound at the time. I thought it was very cool, and it shows his range once again. He has no problem getting a little bit artsy. Bob, what do you got for 5 and 4?
Well, for 5, I have the third of those 3 songs I mentioned, and it's Down by the River. And again, that's from his second album with Crazy Horse. And it's Crazy Horse was a folk rock band, and they like to do a lot of jamming. Well, when they were writing the song, they were having a lot of problems with it, and they kept doing retakes of it. And finally, the drummer, Frank Molina, and the bassist, Billy Talbot, suggested that they slow it down to 1/2 time. And when they did that, it worked. And for number 4, I have Rockin' in the Free World, off of 1989's Freedom album. And that song was a result of all the events that were taking place at the end of the 80s, from the collapse of communism to the Ayatollah having the death fatwa against Salman Rushdie. And then the way he got the title was they had a tour set up that they were supposed to reciprocate with the Russian ballet company. And the guy that they were going to be playing in Russia, and the ballet company was going to play in the US. But unfortunately, the guy that they had who was supposed to put the whole thing together in Russia ended up just absconding with the money, and that was it. So the promoter got it and ruined the whole thing. And then guitarist Sam Pedro ended up after that saying, well, I guess we just got to keep rocking in the free world. And Neil said, I want to use that for a song.
My number 4 is one you've already mentioned, Cinnamon Girl. I love it because it has that fake ending. It's got a great chunky riff that it's based around. My number 3 is Cowgirl in the Sand. For all the reasons you mentioned, it's so aggressive. What do you got for 3 and 2?
For 3, I have Song X off of Mirrorball from 1995. And on that album, Pearl Jam was backing him. And this was at the height of the grunge phase and all that. Now, when that article was published in the magazine, somebody commented that the reason why I mentioned it was I was trying to be cool because I wanted to show that I was hip and I knew about Pearl Jam. But I've been following Neil Young for like 50 some years, so I just know his music. I wasn't trying to be anything. And number 2 is Cortez the Killer. And Cortez the Killer is a really great song with great guitar solo. I love the guitar. I love Neil Young's guitar playing. It is one of the main features of when I go see him. When I see him and he plays only acoustic guitar, it disappoints me, even though he's a great acoustic guitar player.
I almost picked Cortez the Killer. That's not on my list, but it came very close. My number 2 is When You Dance, I Can Really Love. Off of the After the Gold Rush album. I love the final solo. I love just the strange lyrics. I don't know. It's always spoken to me. Number 1, I have off the Deja Vu album, and it's Country Girl. It's the medley Country Girl, Whiskey Boot Hill, Down, 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 and Country Girl, I Think You're Pretty. I just like the medley factor. I think it's imaginative. It's a bigger song than just verse and chorus, and these 3 different parts all fit together really well. It's unlike any of the other songs he writes. So that's why it's my number 1. Bob, what do you have that's better than what I've already said?
Well, my number 1 song is Like a Hurricane.
Okay.
And that's from 1977's America Stars and Bars. And it was inspired by Neil's infatuation with a woman that he saw in a bar that he didn't connect with. And as he was thinking about her afterwards, he ended up writing the lyrics for it, or he ended up writing the melody for it. And then later on, when he was snorting cocaine in a friend's car, he came up with the lyrics and he wrote them down on a newspaper, which was his habit. He would write with a marking pen on it. And once I thought I saw you in a Krause hazy bar, dancing on the light from star to star.
It's a pretty good pick. I mean, once again, it's a song that didn't make my list. When I was making this list, my master list was huge. So before I whittled it down to 10, I had probably 25 to 30 songs. I don't feel like this is going out on a limb, but to me, Neil Young is in the running for top 10 artists of all time for me. I just think he plays guitar like a Jimi Hendrix. He plays the electricity of the guitar. He plays the amplifier. He's unique in that way. There's no one like him before or since. Maybe since, he's sort of the originator of grunge in some ways. So I don't know if you agree with that, but I think there's a reason why he hooked up with Pearl Jam, in the mid 90s, because I think some of those grunge guys went back from the hair metal days of the 80s and took a look at Neil Young and said, this is a really raw sound. So I think Neil Young's one of the more influential musicians of all time and just a terrific writer. So,
well, when you say that they thought that he was an influencer of grunge, I remember when grunge was first starting out, when it's like Nirvana and Pearl Jam were beginning. There was an article that I read, and they did consider Neil Young to be an influence. And one of the reasons why was because he wore plaid shirts a lot of times too. And so that's what, all the grunge people, because here in the Pacific Northwest, plaid shirts are something common because they're warmer, and everybody wears them all the time, and they wear them like a jacket, or back then they were wearing them like a jacket almost when it was warmer.
Well, Bob, like I said, this has been fun. I knew this list was going to be fun. I got no qualms with any of your picks. As I said, a lot of them would have been on mine if I could have picked 20, but we are out of time. For Bob Gersten, I'm Willie Witten. If you have a moment, leave a comment. Tell us what some of your favorite Neil Young songs. Tell us where we messed up. But until next time, this has been this week's Bob versus Willie.